Hey guys, Eric here. It is newsletter time. So this is newsletter number 181, but this one is super special. I'm really excited about this. We are actually going to film this in two parts, and they're gonna post at the same time back to back. So what we're going to be doing today, the project we're working on, is we're going to actually be making this sign. It's from my buddy up in Canada, Woodworkweb. Check out his channel. There'll be links to his channel in the his videos in the description of this video, and many of you probably already know him because he's got a huge channel, really popular, does awesome videos. I love his videos. So definitely go check him out. If you're one of my regular viewers, go check him out. But I'm really excited to show you guys all that went into making this sign for him. And we are actually collaborating. He's going to link over to my channel, and I'm linking over to his channel so we can kind of share our audience. And I'm really excited about that. So a huge thank you to Colin. Thank you so much, Colin, for giving me this opportunity. You have a huge channel, and I'm just I'm honored that you would do this collaboration with me, and I'm really excited about it. So enough of that. So go check out his channel if you're one of my regular viewers, and let's get into making this sign. So I'll be right back and meet you at the bench. Bye. So I am going to make this sign start to finish. So what I'm going to do right now, I'm going to talk about the layout on this sign. We carve our signs freehand, but we need to get the line on the board so we know what we're going to carve. So from here, from this, I am going to carve straight through this piece of vinyl is what this is. Now, our process, we have many different ways that we get the layout on the board, what we call the layout. It may be done through spraying and what we call layout letters, and you can see a lot of that on our channel. Or it may be done with artwork, like that's a special artwork project like this that you can use carbon paper if it's printed on paper, and then you literally just draw it on there and then take the paper away. And again, we've got many videos that kind of show that. This particular process, I've printed this out on a piece of vinyl because we happen to have a big vinyl printer. So I took the logo that Colin sent me, I blew it up to the size I wanted, and it's self-adhesive, so I just stuck it to the board, and you can see I have some registration lines on there, so I got it on there square. I want to be real careful about making sure that it's square on the board. But if you don't have a big vinyl printer, and I'm sure most of you don't, you can do the same thing with paper and use a spray adhesive. The 3M77 works really good as a spray adhesive on regular paper. A lot of times Staples or Office Max or Office Depot, Kinko's, you can take a flash drive with the artwork on there, take it in there, and they have big plotter printers. They'll print it out for you. They may do it on vinyl, but they might just do it on paper, and then you can just glue it on the board and carve straight through the paper. That's really kind of a cool way to do it. So Colin sent me his, oh, by the way, the kind of wood that I'm using here. This is Western Red Cedar, and it is small, narrow pieces that are glued together, laminated together to make one big board. I really like this stuff because it looks really good without a finish on it, but once you put a finish on it, it just, in my opinion, it looks spectacular. So hopefully that's the way this one will come out, and you'll see the whole process of this sign making from start to finish. Now, so here's my piece. Now the other thing that I wanted to show, and again, any of you that are regular watchers of ours know that this is how I kind of hold my boards down. This is just that rubber matting that is
it's shelf liner.
Shelf liner, or you could use like drawer liner at the automotive shops. Any kind of little rubber matting. This stuff is like $2 for a roll of it at Walmart or something, or the dollar store even. So that's what I use. Once I put my board on there and there's any kind of weight, it stays right where it is. See, you can kind of push it around, but if you put any weight on it, man, it sucks it right down to the board. Works awesome. For years and years and years, back in the 70s, we used to clamp everything down.
Well, we use rubber belting
that
you can buy, you know, at industrial supply stuff. But
yeah, like conveyor belt.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
it's conveyor belting, but it's expensive. Where this drawer liner is really cheap.
Yeah, and it works better. All right, so this is our little router that we use. This is something that I discovered a few years ago. This is a little DeWalt DWP611. We've modified it to make it work real well for us for carving signs. The one modification we did is we put a router base plate on it with little drawer pulls as handles. Works out really well, so it's a piece of 1/4 inch acrylic. And then the other modification is, oh, I'm caught up over there, is we drilled a hole in the back. We used a hole saw and drilled a hole in the back and then cut this out, and it gives two different reasons. Number one, it lets light come in from the back side, and number two, or from the front side, whichever way I'm going to use the router. And number two, it's got a place for the sawdust to escape, to excel out of there. Now, many of you may already have routers that are set up with dust collection system, and that's fine. If that works for you, that's great. This is the way we do it. So all of my recommendations, our recommendations, are simply what we do. If you can take and improve on that, great. Then you know, many of you are already woodworkers. If you've got a better idea, we'd love to see if you have a better idea. Let us know. Hey, we're always open. We're learning together. So the way I'm going to carve this sign, though, because of the way the cord is, I'm actually going to turn it around and I'm going to carve from the back side so you guys can see what that router bit is doing there. This router bit, by the way, I almost forgot. This router bit is our profile bit. We talk about it on our channel all the time. So it's a profile bit, one that custom made. And then we've got information on the bases on our website as well, on our channel. A lot of stuff on this particular router. This is my favorite router that I've ever used. I love it. So let's get into this. I'm going to set my depth, but let's stop talking and get to routing. All right, so I am going to take my hat off, put my cheaters on. These are little magnifiers that, again, I use all the time.
You got those at Harbor Freight, right?
Yeah, you can get them at Harbor Freight, I think, but you can find them online. Actually, there's videos on our website where I give sources for finding most of this stuff. All right, so let's get into carving here. See what our depth looks like. A little bit deep.
Alright, I think I'm going to go ahead and cut this big piece here. You with me, Dad?
Yep.
Alright. And again, that one kind of peeled up on me, so I'm going to, I'll just go ahead and get some of those out of the way. Alright, you guys, I think you guys got kind of an idea of what I'm doing here. I'm going to go ahead and we'll shut the camera off. I'm going to finish what I've done here all the way up to the end, and then I'll show you what my next step is and how we make sure it all looks the way we want to. We'll be right back. All right, you guys, we are back. So what I've done is I've gone through and I've done all of my lines. The thing about this vinyl, and the paper does pretty much the same thing too, is when it curls up like these lines, it doesn't tell me exactly where my line is. I tend to be kind of, when I'm making signs, I want to be as close to what the artwork is as possible. So what I do now is I am just going to pull all that vinyl off of there. That will allow me to see where those lines actually are, and from that point I will go back. My next process after that is I'll go back and clean up my lines and get them exactly the way I want them. So I just kind of curl these up. Fortunately, these are all pretty big pieces, pretty easy to peel off. And I'll show you what I mean. For instance, I think you can probably see this. This line right here. This is that one when I was carving this on camera, and this corner peeled up. It kind of caught underneath the router base and caused my line to go off just slightly. I can't live with that. I just don't do that well. So I'm going to go back, all these straight lines that need to be straight lines, I'm going to go back and see exactly what's what and straighten out those lines. I'm going to do most of it, or I'm going to do some of it at least on camera, and then the rest of it I will do off camera. But I'll show you what I mean. Alright, now these little ones here might be better off doing with my pocket knife. So I really like this vinyl. It has the vinyl carving through it. It has there's a few issues that you wouldn't have if you use what I call the carbon paper method, which is print it out on paper and then use carbon paper. But that has its issues as well. I think that the issues that I like I don't know what I'm trying to say here, but basically I like the vinyl process a little bit better for this type of sign. I still use the carbon paper method once in a while, but I'm starting to use this method more and more. Alright, so now you can see that some of these lines don't look, and here is, by the way, here's another great example of why you want your printout, because you want it to look, you know, you want to see exactly what it's supposed to look like. So I'm going to set that over here as I go through here and see what I want my lines. So I could take that straight edge and I could draw some lines where I want to straighten those up. And if you're just beginning at this, you might want to do that. But for me, I kind of know what I want them to look like, so I probably won't do that. In fact, I won't. I will just set my router depth at the appropriate depth, which is somewhere around 3/16, I think. Something like that. I go more by width than the cut. Alright, so let's... that all looks pretty good. I'm just more worried about these lines and these down here. pick the router up and throw in the line after you fix it?
Yeah, like that.
Like that?
Yeah, and just then point out what you...
So you can see, these are, let me turn the router off. You can see I just kind of straightened out these lines here, and they just look a little bit sharper. Most people would probably never know, but I would know. So I'm just going to do a few more of these straight lines in here, and then I'll come down and work on these letters. But yeah, I'll try and pick up my router more out of there. I'm going to come down to the letters now, guys. So I don't know if you could see that on camera, guys, but these two O's, being as I was going off of artwork that was somewhat pixelated and kind of tough to tell where the line actually was, I just got it close when I was carving through the vinyl. Now that I go back, I'm trying to match those up and get all those corners somewhat symmetrical, so to speak. So now I'll move on to a few more letters here, although there's not too much to do on this D. Here's another example of the O that I really don't like the looks of. It's kind of big over here. It's not really straight across. This corner doesn't look the same as the other three corners, so I'm going to try and reshape that and get it better uniform looking. You know, it probably would be just fine like that. I guess I tend to be somewhat of a perfectionist, guys, and I'm sure that some of you may be the same way. I like when people look at my signs, I like them to think that they were CNC carved, and that's the goal. That's what I look for. So anyway, let me see if I can kind of trim up that O a little bit. Okay guys, I think you get the idea of what I'm doing here. So I'm going to go ahead, and I think I did about half of it. I'm going to go ahead and finish up the other half off camera because I just don't want this video to go too long. I think you kind of got the idea of what I do. And then from this point here, once I get that done, we'll come back on and I'll show you the next step. So we'll be back in a minute. Bye. Alright guys, we're back. So I've gone on now and I've cleaned up all of my lines. They all look good the way I want them to look. So that was the last process. Now what I'm going to do, because all of this is going to stand out and have a background around it, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to do what I call create a buffer zone around all of my, this is what I would call outset pieces, outset letters, outset logo. The reason I call that is because everything here is going to be cut away. You'll see that as we go through the process. But now what I want to do, the next step, I'm going to use the same profile bit, but because this profile bit is ground on an angle, because it literally is a V-groove, it's a 15-degree angle on the sides, and then down at the tip it comes down to a 45. Because of that, the deeper you go, the wider you cut. The wider the cut is. So I've been carving this somewhere around between an 1/8 and 3/16. I'm going to go down to somewhere around 1/4 of an inch, something like that, maybe a little bit over, so that I can get a nice wide line around all of my detail, so that when I go back with my next router and my different router bit, I won't have to, my chances of hitting my outset pieces are highly diminished. I don't want to hit those with my next bit that I use after this one. So I will attempt to make a big fat line around all of my stuff. Here we go. I'm actually going to set it a little bit deeper. Okay guys, you get an idea of what I'm doing here. I just kind of did a little bit more than half there. This part goes really fast, and the next part will go somewhat fast as well. So I'll go ahead and finish this, the rest of going around this, making a fat line, what I call my buffer zone, off camera, and we'll be right back and go on to the next portion, which is going to be what we call the cleanup. We'll be right back.